Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm DearMYRTLE, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our Genia desk in the last 2 weeks since last we met. I've got a very interesting show, and miraculous things happen. Let's pull the panelists up, and while you're doing that, I'm going to see who's out there on the YouTube side. So Randy's here, of course. All my panelists are all commenting. Sherry's out there. Remember, she's got that crescent wrench. 80 degrees today. Wow. And Marcia's here. Yeah, too much rain on Thursday and Friday. And so flooding. That's scary. I know about floods. So my best to you. I should throw you a life ring. And that's no joke. It's serious. It can damage everything. Gwenny's here from California. Yeah. Change of weather, barometric pressure can be challenging. There's Hillary and Frank. Valerie's there. Happy Monday. It's overcast in Minnesota. And let's see. Project Kin is here. We need to have you come on Mondays with Myrt one of these days and talk about Stories 250, an initiative that Project Kin has got going. We talked about it yesterday at Genia Bloggers. But over there in Berkeley, where Barbara lives, she can see clearly now. The rain has gone. Whoops, I might get dinged for music. Anyway, John, my friend in Shaker Heights, it looks like it's a nice day in Shaker Heights. Bobby's here from Granite Bay. I try to mention everybody. And I see we have, I think we have the usual and customary, the usual suspects, let's put it that way. And Barbara says, yes, she'd love to. Yeah, she's so good at collaborating with people and pulling people together. All right, our panelists are here. Let's do a mic check on everybody. Frank, let me hear.
Hello.
Okay, short but sweet.
Not sure what to talk about. But
it's all right. Well, today
see.
We're going to talk about blogging 101 and Quakers and something about the Ancestry Census Compare. So I'm sure you'll have some input there. Randy's here, our guy over there in California, the most prolific genealogy blogger on the face of the earth. Can't hear you.
Southern California.
Yeah.
And it didn't rain here, but it rained everywhere else in California.
Well, you are. There is that song too that I can't sing. Okay, Jill's here. I can hear you giggling.
Hi, everybody. I'm working on my renewal right now.
Oh, boy.
Whoa, boy.
Board for Certification of Genealogists are lucky to have you. You've been such an advocate for understanding the certification process, and now you've got a renewal. That's every 5 years, isn't it?
It is every 5 years.
Okay.
And I've got plenty of time. I'm way ahead of where I would, way ahead of panic mode. Let me put it that way.
You know, in the olden days when I went to college, and you had to go to the library and use card catalogs when you're doing your research for your paper for that semester's assignment. And we all had 3x5 cards and we put our citations there, etc. I actually started one paper the next day after receiving the assignment. And it was the best feeling because I had it under control. I never did it again. You'd think I would have learned, but anyway, I digress. Anyway, welcome, Bill. You're here.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good. Your voice is sounding better and stronger every day. Keep it
Feeling
up.
a lot better. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Hillary, our gal in Wales.
Yep. I've got some WikiTree news that I'm briefly
what
mention
happened at
later on.
WikiTree this weekend? I love it.
there was a connectathon this weekend, and I can give you the total figures. I could just double check what they were. The total number of profiles that were added were 73,791.
And I love that. This isn't just a numbers game, though, because when you guys at WikiTree add profiles, they are documented, paper trail documented. Sometimes DNA factors in, though, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I was working on a challenge recently for Kirsty Gray, who is
We know her from
Yeah,
family.
and I got the closest of anybody to her because I've actually got a connection. One of my relatives married a person with the same surname as one of her ancestors in the same part of Hampshire.
Okay, now that's the same name wasn't so exciting, but it's the same locality. It's getting more exciting. How about the same time period? You're there yet?
Oh yes, same time period. They were a family close enough to be like. There was the person that married one of my relatives was a sister of one of her ancestors. I can't remember if it was male or female, but it was definitely a close connection.
Okay, that is way cool. And our guy in Canada, Dan, is back. Dan the man is back. Welcome.
Good morning, Myrt, and good morning to family historians around the world. It's so great to be here this morning.
Yes. So we usually think of him because of the genealogy assistant. He's a very techie guy, but he actually does genealogy. And so welcome back. Like I say, I have 20 people on my list that are authorized panelists, and everybody's schedule's different. Like we know that Miles couldn't be here today. You got to go to Disneyland or Disney World. It's just the thing, I mean, I understand sometimes the rest of the family needs to be considered. And sometimes you got to go skateboarding, and sometimes you got to show back up, and we appreciate you being here.
I'm pleased to be here.
All right. So there's something from Gwenny that I wanted to mention. And Jill, you're going to Disneyland tomorrow. Is that a grandchild related thing or just because you love the mouse?
Well, both.
Yeah.
I love the mouse, but it's a grandchild thing. And then we're coupling that couple of days in Disney World with a Disney cruise for them.
Oh, okay. So this is the B4 cruise activity.
Yep.
I love it. Okay. In fact, the big red ship is a big deal. It really, it's just wonderful.
Well, I'm looking forward to 86-degree temperatures.
Oh, yeah. It'll feel good.
Yep.
That's not the Gwenny comment I wanted. Somewhere there's a comment from Gwen that says on the Census Compare part, please specify if it's a basic subscription, a paid subscription. I'll be showing it, and I'm afraid I'll forget to tell you, so I'll tell you now, Gwenny. I have a subscription, the account that I just opened up, which is the one I've been working on most recently, is free because I have I'm a member of the LDS Church, and part of the agreement was that they would give access to church members to Ancestry. I don't have everything on Ancestry. I don't have access to everything on Ancestry. I've actually hit a wall where I had to switch to my paid account. I have too many accounts. Let's just put it that way. and Barbara says, who doesn't love the mouse? All right. Well, so the big draw, I think, for today is the Quaker research, because a number of people wrote to me, and when AOL, when we were all doing things on AOL, George and Drew and all of us and Valerie and everything, AOL told me that if I received an email, if DearMYRTLE received an email, it meant that there were about 80 people who thought of writing an email but didn't get around to it, or they were shy, or they figured they didn't want to be part of the. I still get, anywhere from 500 to 700 a day. It's a lot. I have filters, but still. So I know, because I've received 9 emails from people, that a lot of people are interested in Quaker research. And so let's tackle that one first, okay? In the green room, Jill came up with 2 questions. Do you want to talk about that? And that'll set the tone, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
What are the 2 questions?
Yeah, right. I got to think of 2. I know one.
Okay.
So basically, what I have run across is that people who want to present think that they don't know enough about any one topic to present. And my approach is, yeah, but you're a beginner. And so a beginner knows what path you took as a beginner in that ethnic group, that methodology or whatever, to learn. And that would be helpful to others. So my question was, I have no Quakers at all. And so I have no idea about Quaker research and felt I couldn't really contribute, except for the idea that what would I do if I found something that looked like it might be a Quaker?
Okay.
And so this idea, first question was, how do I identify that I have a Quaker? And the second question is, where would I go to learn about Quaker? What would I do?
Yeah. So this is what happened in the green room. At first, it was just me and 2 or 3 of the panelists. And I said, I know my Pennsylvania people that were Quakers that bought 20,000 acres from William Penn when he came over, and they were all from Wales. And I know about that. And I know about the resources that I used for that group. But let's answer this. Let's talk about this. Dan, how do we even begin to identify, or what would lead us to suspect we have a Quaker ancestor?
I can speak certainly for within Canada. One of the most valuable ways for finding if you have a Quaker ancestor in Canada is by finding them on the census. Religion is a question that's asked on the Canadian census since the very earliest ones, since the 1860s. So you'll be able to very quickly find out, who identified as a Quaker and who didn't. And it's also important to note on that Quakers go by a number of names, and you might see them referred to by a number of names. Quakers being one, Friends or the Society of Friends, the Religious Society of Friends being the full name of Quakers. But you'll see variations of that, and also different sects of Quakerism. Like, for example, in Canada, we have what's known as the Children of Peace, who were a Quaker sect in the 1830s and 40s. So there are also spin-off groups of Quakers to be mindful of as well.
Okay, so I'm really jealous of your census records, because here in the United States, they don't ask our religious orientation. So, yeah, Randy, you made a comment on the YouTube side about what you would do to find out about Quaker research. So, do you want to mention that?
Yeah, well, if I was a beginner or someone uninformed about religion or whatever, I would ask AI first. I'd ask Google Gemini
Of
first.
course.
But that's and it would tell me, and it would, because it's based on what it's been trained on. And then I would go quickly to the Family Search Research Wiki.
Okay, so I'll share my screen in a second with the what I did, because that's what I did faced with the request 2 weeks ago that we talk about Quaker research. And so while I'm bringing that over, let me go ahead and do that. It isn't a matter of let's go. I mean, how would you even identify they were Quakers in the first place, though? How would you even suspect it? I guess if we know of Quakers as being peaceful people, it's also one of the few religions, just you know this generally from our Albion Seed book, where we
Mhm.
took the chapter on the migration pattern from the Midlands to the Atlantics, to mid-Atlantic states, that they women were allowed to speak, which is a concept. I could easily have joined that historically for that reason alone. I don't mean to be disrespectful. You know that. You know old Myrt here. I would suspect that I had a Quaker research, or I mean, a Quaker situation, if the person is saying, well, if they lived where Quakers lived, because you tend to live with your people, that's what my Mormon ancestors did, and they kept having to move. And so on my dad's side, yeah, that's how I keep track of my Mormon ancestors. They moved together. They didn't go just blazing a trail off somewhere. That's also that concept of the Elizabeth has added frenemies to the list of her fan club things, friends, associates, and neighbors. So she now says frenemies, you know. Anyway, it's who they are traveling with, and somebody's record may mention a religion if they didn't move to Canada. Hillary, while you're here, let me ask, did the census records over in England, I mean, since Canada's related, do they ask for religion over there?
No, they don't. The only reason I know I've got Quakers that I've researched, my husband's family were actually from the East Midlands and Eastern England, and some of his more distant relatives moved down to London, and they were Quakers. They turned up in Quaker records for me on Ancestry. And you could tell they were like non-conformist records, which is why I know that some of them became Quakers, and they are so much better. The records they tell you who parents are, which you wouldn't get on a lot of the other things without having to order expensive certificates and things.
Okay, so you knew more, as I'm thinking of it, as you knew it from the family.
I found the religious records, the records of marriages and burials and well, not christenings, but birth records. They didn't christen people. They had birth records. They said somebody was born child of however.
Okay, but census records didn't tell you a religious orientation like they did in Canada. So Dan, in Canada, in Quakerism as you know it in the 20th and 21st century, is there no christening of children but the mention of birth of children in your monthly meetings?
Yeah, and I think that leads to a really interesting point in that Quakers are extremely well known for their record keeping. It's a blessing and a curse sometimes, it feels like, but you'll find so many interesting notes and records in Quaker meeting and Quaker business meeting minutes. And as stuff like Family Search full text is able to index records like that, I think it will be a lot easier to find your Quaker ancestors, because these kind of miscellaneous meeting notes will become indexed and searchable. So you'll find an ancestor's name in the middle of a Quaker meeting minute, and you would have had no idea otherwise that they were a Quaker at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be by miracles like that, the miracle of technology, that we would discover it. All right, we're getting a lot of comments here from the community. So let me go on that side because I want to know about everyone's Quaker ancestry. Let's see. So, oh my gosh, there's a lot of comments. Well, one thing I need to mention is that when Sherry was she always comes to our green room before the meeting, and she mentioned that she is, and she's talking about it in the chat, that Tristan Coffins was part of we're thinking it was 10 couples after the treaty with the indigenous population. There were 10 couples that actually bought Nantucket from the original inhabitants. Oh man, we got to be politically correct. We really do. It's just like I live on an island that was known as the principal place where the women of the Samish Indian Nation bred woolly dogs with really long woolly hair that they would weave into warm blankets. And they would take turns coming over. It was their turn to do it for a period of time. And children may or may not have been part of that equation. Anyway, we are not the first peoples. We are the immigrants. Anyway, so there's a bit of that discussion going on. And Deb says she knew she had Quaker ancestors because one set of great-grandparents were Quakers, and their daughter, her grandmother, was raised by her 2 sets of Quaker grandparents. That's so by the family. And Audrey is saying, my family is loosely related to the Ohio branch of the Coffin family. I am the first generation in nearly 300 years in America on my mother's paternal line not to be Quaker. And thank you for that. Oh, and so then she lists some of the names. Mendenhall, that's interesting. It's interesting. Their migration pattern was Pennsylvania to North Carolina, which would be those coffins, and to Preble and Butler counties, Ohio. Man, we got a lot of really specific sharing going on there. Katie, hi Katie, I haven't seen you. However, I do follow your artwork over on Instagram. Thank you so much for coming today. She's heard rumors but hasn't found any proof. Okay, let me share my screen and we'll do that part of this discussion. Have to find the button. And so one of the things that Hillary helped us with was when we did book club again, and let me make this full screen, and we did the Albion Seed book, which is what's just dealing with 4 of the colonial migration patterns from England to the Americas. And so if somebody could share that link, that was a pretty good primer as far as social context, historic. I think it's more of a social history part rather than looking at record sets to help you discover more about your Quaker ancestors. Now, someone else mentioned, that was Randy, that he would go to Family Search, and I am logged in, and we're not actually looking for historical records yet. What we're looking for, and this is what I did 2 Mondays ago when we decided on Quaker. I said, I'll just go there and pull up a few links. But I wanted to go to the research wiki. I did that. And hopefully it will come up. That's interesting. Take a long time. Don't give me a heart attack. So again, it's still wanting me to think about locality, and I just want to talk about search by place or topic at the top. So I'm going to type in Quaker, which would bring in Quakers with an S, etc. So I'm going to have the S. And this is the results. Wales Church, Society of Friends. United States, Society of Friends. Barbados, England, Ohio, New York, Wales Church History, Connecticut Church Records. Almost every state, every state and every province and every country has a page on the wiki. And religion is certainly one of the subtopics on a page in the wiki. So you may have heard that Quakers came maybe first, possibly, to Pennsylvania. That would be in the third quarter of the 1700s. But maybe your people were Ohio Quakers. Let's just pick Iowa. Let's pick Iowa. And then you'll see, well, that's a great pie chart to show you where are Quakers on the list. Are we seeing them at all? Society of Friends. Friends. Yeah, I had to look for the right one.
1%.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to read and the light's bugging me. Yeah, and so I'm surprised that they say baptisms or christening information found in records. But I'm not in charge of the Iowa records, Iowa church records. I think what they mean is information in all church records. You might find these things. Well, we've already learned from Dan and from Hillary that that baptism and christenings were not part of that. There were mentions of birth. All right. But anyway, that's one thing. Now notice we're going through all these different countries, and there are hundreds of references to Quakers in the research wiki. And that's a good place to start and find the most recent Quaker, and follow it through. Find out what records have survived for that area. But I think we want to switch and talk about some examples of record sets that are available. And I'm going to turn to Dan first, and because Dan has several ideas. Oh, this is the first thing he contributed. What is this, Dan? This is specific, and we hope that somebody did this for the meeting. Explain what a meeting is. It isn't like this is a Zoom meeting or a StreamYard meeting. What's a monthly meeting?
So a monthly meeting is basically how the organized body of a Quaker meeting is organized. So a monthly meeting would be, for example, your local Quaker meeting, and that may consist of a meeting house. It may not have at different times. It could be in people's homes, but a meeting is basically equivalent of saying the church, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you've given us 3 examples of things, and I'll share my screen. We'll try to pull up Canadian Friends. There we go. So are there meetings only once a month?
No, it's there are meetings where there are daily meetings. For example, I believe in Philadelphia, the Pendle Hill monthly meeting meets every day. They have worship every day. Mm-hmm. But it's quite a confusing way if you're not versed in the Quaker meeting kind of lingo to kind of get it straight. And even for me, sometimes it's confusing. But the monthly meeting happens generally every week on what Quakers refer to as First Day, which is Sunday. Mm-hmm. So Quakers will generally meet on Sunday mornings, and that's their weekly worship. for about an hour, and what the churches referred to as the monthly meeting, and I think that's a historical reference in Quakerism to when they did meet only once a month, but now it's generally a weekly practice.
Okay. So this is one of the links that you shared with us. So talk to me about this. What is this?
So this is a link to the Canadian Friends Historical Association, and they're kind of the broad body of Quaker research within Canada. So if you find out that you have a Quaker ancestor or somebody in your friends and neighbors network that may have been a Quaker who came to Canada, certainly the Canadian Friends Historical Association is the place to first identify what kind of records exist within Canada, and also an important part of researching your Quaker ancestors is Quakers are generally surrounding where a meeting house is. So understanding where meeting houses exist in the United States and Canada can help to determine what ancestors you have in that area may have been Quakers. There's certainly a proximity effect to how much of a radius you are within an active Quaker meeting in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a kind of catch-all page for understanding Canadian Quakers.
Okay, thank you for sharing this. All right, and then there's a podcast, which is intriguing. Tell me why you wanted to have us know about this. Oh, and they're so good with having graphics for each one, so they're distinct and quite inviting.
Yeah, so this is the Quaker podcast, and that's a reference back to the Quaker use of thee and thou, which is certainly now it sounds very antiquated, but at the time, thee and thou were the informal terms used. So it's kind of reversed. But the Quaker podcast is a great resource to learn about Quaker history. And understanding Quaker history, you can learn a lot more about potential Quaker ancestors, or you can gather more information about what the lives of your Quaker ancestors might have been like. And they do great episodes on early American Quakerism, early Quakerism in Britain. And it's really a digestible resource to get a grasp on what Quakers have been like now and in the past.
Okay, so I'm taken to when I'm quilting or something, I've been listening to podcasts. I'm better at what I'm doing if I do something else at the same time like that. I don't know. It's not like I'm brilliant in multitasking. It's just I discovered that about my brain. And this is very worthwhile. I see some of them are quite historical, and yet some of them there was something about something that referred to current events. So it seems like a pretty broad spectrum of topics that they're handling in this podcast. So thank you for sharing that. Now I want to share this. This one is your creation. Let me zoom in and talk to me about this. Thank you for sharing it.
So this was I guess it's short comparatively, but it's a short article that I wrote about our local Quaker meeting house here in Waterloo in Kitchener, the Kitchener Area Monthly Meeting. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with Quakers in particular. It has to do with our actual meeting house and where what the history of the land where our meeting house exists. What that has been since it was originally a part of the Haldimand Tract, a part of the Haudenosaunee tract that they received in the 1700s up until today, where it's a Quaker meeting house in Kitchener, Ontario.
Yeah, so I tended to think of Quaker meetings. Oh, I love these kind of maps. Is this a person you know? Is he?
So that That's the original tract of land. So the pin represents exactly where our meeting house exists. Now that's the downtown core of a city of close to a million people. But so this is what that was the original tract of land that was granted. So just to give a bit of backstory about our area, that Kitchener was founded by Mennonites, and they came to this area in the early 1800s, and that's how they divided the land originally.
Okay. Very interesting. So I love these old pictures. Boy, that's some kind of a homestead building, 3 floors. Wow. I'm sure that's their second or third iteration on the property.
So that's the Waterloo County House of Refuge. So that's essentially what was referred to as a poorhouse.
Okay.
And so the land where our Quaker meeting house exists now is a residential area that was developed in the early 20th century.
Okay.
But in the time prior to that, it was used as a working farm for the county.
Okay. So as I said in the green room, there's no question that Dan is not only a techie guy, but he's a genealogist. That's why we love him so much. All right. Now, Gwenny is mentioning Swarthmore, and I had that on our list. Here's the link to the main page of the Friends Historical Library at Swarthmore, which is a university here in the U.S. in Pennsylvania, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. I love that right on their main page is something that someone else mentioned in the chat, that a big clue, this is from Monique, the big clue in one of my 4th grade grandfather's will was that the records were listed as months and numbers, not by the name we know, like the 7th month. That's how I knew and began to research them. I added a word or two in there, Monique. Anyway. Oh, and thank you, Randy, for sharing these links with everybody. It looks like it's me multitasking, but I can't do that. So that article that Dan just shared with us, the link is earlier. Scroll back, you'll find the link, Kyla. Randy and Frank are very good at sharing. Oh, in fact, here it is. It's that really long Google Doc, but he made it publicly available. So hopefully that'll help you, Kyla, Madam Secretary of Bloggers. She and Bill and Hillary were just installed yesterday. Okay, this is an interesting book. Would somebody please get this? The book, Thee and Me, A Beginner's Guide to Early Records. Somebody look that up. Lisa Arnold, who worked for Ancestry for a number of years, is Quaker and wrote a very good book to help you figure out how to begin to do your research. So if you're the kind of person that does well with a book in hand, think about that. All right, let me go back to our Google Sheet because I have a couple of other things. I have mostly family, my family are mostly Pennsylvania Quakers, and that's where Cousin Russ and I were connected. And what I want to do is bring up this Henshaw collection. And this gentleman, William Wade Henshaw, worked, he sifted through all kinds of Pennsylvania Quaker meeting records and indexed them. And there's 10 volumes to the set. And I don't think I'm just letting you know they have it as a book. You would probably want to go to WorldCat. Have you ever used WorldCat before? Let me pull that up just a second. Okay. So, okay, can't continue that. You could go to OCLC as well. And what you want to do is find out who what library near you on the face of the earth has this 10-volume collection? However, I think Ancestry has, does Ancestry have the images from some of the chapters? I can't remember. You'd have to look. But just as we looked at the wiki, you'll want to go to Ancestry and check their catalog and search for Quakers, Friends, records of Philadelphia yearly meeting. These are all catchwords that would help you find these kinds of records. Okay, Swarthmore. Yeah, here it is. A list of the records. Let me pull up what Ancestry has. Oh, that went to Family Search. There we go. I'll pull that up so y'all can see it. So I just searched for Quaker and got these responses, which I could sort by relevance or the date or the collection title. And you can see these are, well, there's Charles' coffin. We're talking about the coffins today. Yeah, there's the, let me pull this up and show you this. And we'll look at the title page and you'll see it. Yep, there's the Henshaw book. Are y'all seeing this? Have I remembered to share my screen?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I knew they had it. But it's been a while since I looked at them. So you have to remember that there's 10 different volumes to this. So remember that Dan talked about different splinter groups or other groups of Quakers, that Hicksite is one of them that is in this collection, as we note right here in Henshaw's. Let me skip in about 10. And when I first used this, I figured I would remember what the abbreviations meant in an entry. Now I have learned that when I go to a book that's got a lot of abbreviations in it, I need to copy not only the title page and the copyright information page, but that whole beginning part with abbreviations, because you don't remember. You don't remember. Let's go to let's just pick randomly page 100. And I'll show you what it looks like. So this is primary information being listed, but the source is not the original source. The original source are the monthly meetings that he has indexed. So you would take your entry, and where's the surname? Davenport. See, I was seeing Phoebe. Somebody's typing. So you might want to mute. No, don't worry, Jill. It's okay. It's okay. I don't know if it's you. It's all right. Anyway, I knew Mary T was not the full name. So I knew, because I've used this, that I had to go up farther. And sometimes you have to go a page back if there's a lot of Davenports, for instance. And this is the New York monthly meeting. Dan, I forgot to ask you a question. When you mentioned that some of the meetings are daily, that reminded me of like Rose Kennedy, who was Catholic and went to Mass every single day until she could not move. Is this, and that was a sign of being particularly devout. Is that what that means when when they go every day?
I don't necessarily think that is what it translates to in Quakerism. So Quakers, their religious service is known as meeting for worship. So that's generally taking an hour of silence. And I think many Quakers practice that daily anyways, not necessarily at a at a meeting house, or they do it in their own ways. But large meetings, like for example the Philadelphia monthly meeting, they have a large meeting house, and they're able to facilitate having a meeting for worship every day. So I think you'll find that in large cities when available, but it's not necessarily in terms of modern Quakerism a really common thing. But it does. I just wanted to bring up a point that Gwen had mentioned earlier. She had listed off the concepts of yearly meeting and half yearly meeting. So that's kind of as you go broader, at a local sense, you have your monthly meeting, and then a half yearly meeting is kind of a regional group, and then the yearly meeting is kind of the largest body of a Quaker meeting, and that will generally be a state or a region. In Philadelphia, it's very discrete. There's so many Quakers in a small area, so they've got a yearly meeting just for their general area. But in Canada, we have one yearly meeting. That's the Canadian yearly meeting. And so that's the largest organization of Quakerism in Canada. But in terms of finding Quaker records, if you're able to identify what meeting your ancestors may have gone to, you can see where those records would have ended up with the current yearly meetings. So they all yearly meetings would have
did
information.
we just lose your sound? Can you hear Dan?
Yes.
I cannot. Keep talking, Dan.
Okay. So the
Remember,
the,
I had a weird thing happen with my sound coming in. Okay, somebody else speak. Let me see if it's just Dan I'm picking on. Somebody else, please speak.
So I did find
I can't hear
that those
anything.
Pennsylvania records were on the Internet Archive.
Okay, I'm going to go out, and I'm going to come back in. So, Dan, I'm throwing it to you. All right, I'll be back. All right, who's leaving? I'm not ending the stream.
So, Dan, could you talk a bit about the, you mentioned earlier how wonderful the Quaker records were. Could you talk a bit about that?
Wait.
I have Baptists and they're horrible.
Yeah. So Quakers are really known for documenting everything. Quakers have what's known as, so they have meeting for worship, which is basically essentially the church service. But we also have what's known as meeting for worship for business, which is a business meeting with regard to all of the aspects of the Quaker meeting, so the church in general, but also with regard to members of the community. And it's basically meeting notes like you'd find in a business or something like that.
So more
but
like a manuscript approach?
Yeah. Yeah. It's I would consider it like kind of traditional meeting notes, like you would find like corporate meeting notes kind of. But Quakers were very meticulous with their records since early Quakerism, and these Quaker meeting minutes are so interesting. You'll find all kinds of just random notes about people in the community and notes about people in the church. And I think it's really with the full text search, it will really unlock a lot of that, because they're not necessarily structured in terms of birth, marriage, and death in all cases. But they're more of like a stream of consciousness of a Quaker meeting, and it includes a lot of names and dates that could be, parsed through and found with full text search. So the Quaker meeting minutes are, I think, are really fantastic. It's just kind of a tenet of Quakerism to keep these records, and in many cases they survive. That's the biggest thing, is ensuring that Quaker historical societies are able to preserve these records and continue to digitize the records and keep them available for all of history, because what they've preserved from that time is really incredible, and it's a unique look into a community, because they'll comment in the Quaker business meeting minutes, for example, on local events happening in a community. So they'll often give their opinion on things that are happening in the community, and that's quite interesting. If you can find, a topic that you're looking to research, and find a Quaker meeting that existed in that time period, you might be able to find some kind of commentary. And again, that will get unlocked more and more the more you can search these records with full text.
Yeah, the meeting minutes are really useful too in tracking migrations, because
yes, that's a great point.
The members will transfer from one monthly meeting to another, and so there'll be an entry at the location they left, and it's a location they're entering. So sometimes that's the only way you might find where somebody had moved away to.
Mm-hmm. When Quakers were migrating, usually they would ask for a letter from their current church to bring to their new one to essentially vouch for that they were good Quakers. And those transfers are documented, so it's really easy to establish migration patterns, because you'll see, for example, Benjamin Hawk, who was a member of the Catawissa monthly meeting, has requested a transfer to the Yonge Street monthly meeting in Toronto, or in Ohio, or whatever various migration patterns were popular in that particular area.
Now, I understand the dating system that they use is completely different, how they denote years and that sort of thing. And that might be a clue that somebody would run across and go, oh, I think I have a Quaker. So what does that dating system even look like?
So generally, with regards to the days, Quakers don't refer to days by and I'll speak that this is historical. Modern Quakers will certainly use the days of the week. That's not a modern thing necessarily. But historically, Quakers didn't use the days of the week because they were named after pagan gods. I think that may be true. I don't know if that's true actually, but I think that's why Quakers didn't. They referred to the names of the week as first day, second day, just very literal and plain. I think. The tenets of Quakerism are very based around plainness and simplicity, peace, among other things. But certainly, I think that there's a way of plain speak that Quakers have. So you'll see that in the thee and thou, traditionally, which were traditionally the plain ways to address somebody. You was the formal way, and thee was the informal way. So Quakers were more simple with regard to that and their language, and first day is an example of just that kind of plainness in their speak. And you'll see first day, second month, things like that.
Did they measure from January or did they measure from March?
I think
the first month.
It's January.
January. Okay. All right.
I think it has to be, doesn't it? Because by the time the Quakers really started becoming, most places had changed to the modern day calendar. They weren't on the older calendar, were they? Most places, although some haven't changed until fairly recently.
Well, I don't think the U.S. changed until 1752, so that's the reason why I asked that question. If they came in earlier than that,
later than that, if I remember rightly.
Quakerism started in England by a man by the name of George Fox, and it was started in the 1650s, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and I can hear you guys. So you're having a good question or commentary about the calendar and the adoption of the Julian calendar. And I shared the link. I believe I actually shared the link myself. So this would explain the calendar changes and the actual, you'll see that he the George Fox part of Quakerism predated that 1751 change in the calendar. But if you studied the new calendar, which I always get them confused, I have to remember it's not alphabetical order. Julian was the old one because of Julius Caesar, and Gregorian is what we went to because of King George?
Pope Gregory.
Pope Gregory.
Yeah, I
Thank
forget
you.
the number after his name, but it was Pope
Yeah,
Gregory.
okay. It takes a village to get this whole thing out here. Thank you.
I did a whole presentation on feast days and calendar changes. I think it's on Legacy. So, if you're interested.
Okay. Somebody look that one up. That's great. Yeah. So this is probably the definitive answer on the historical use of that phraseology that we tend to associate with Quakerism. And the change occurred because they were trying to deal with the fact that over time, we didn't have a leap year until later. And over time, the calendar would be off, and suddenly your winter months in the Northern Hemisphere would be in June, starting in June. And they tried to get it more synchronized with reality, I guess. What did you guys talk about while I was gone? Well, I could always I guess I could watch the recording and find out. And Randy, did you actually share your marriage contract?
Yeah, it's in the private chat.
You already did that?
It's in the private chat, and I shared it on YouTube too. Yeah.
Okay, so it's already done. All right. What do we need to do next, since I missed all this? This has not been an exhaustive discussion, but a very intriguing discussion of Quaker.
So do you want to talk about Swarthmore a little bit more? Because I understand that they hold the records, but I don't know what their scope is.
I don't know what their scope is either, in particular, because I haven't been there to do research. My work was done with Henshaw. And in discussing it with a Quaker specialist, let's look at their genealogy. I clicked the genealogy tab, discover their collections, and their online digital collection would be one that you might be interested in. And you just have to explore it. Okay. I'm not an expert on this. This is that caveat I expressed in the green room. I just know that you pretty much need to go there.
We did discuss the date, how they date things a little bit with first day, second day. Dan did, not me. And then we were just moving there to the the calendar piece of that.
Okay, sounds good.
There also came in quite a number of nice comments.
Okay. Yeah, I've got just a few now. I can't go all the way back. Okay. Yeah, Dan talked about monthly meeting minutes, and we talked about meeting minute transfers. I do want to mention something interesting about my Pennsylvania Quakers. They were so prolific in the Philadelphia area that they skewed the politics. And so two things happened. They made a county that was not part of Philadelphia city. That's where the Quakers lived. So they weren't part of Philadelphia's politics. But some of the leaders had had some threatening things happened. And so they went without their families to Virginia. And so I have people that literally were in, and I can't give you my citations, but they were in the in the Philadelphia monthly meeting. They didn't move. Now they're in the county. Then later they're in Virginia, and the reason you know it is the letter of recommendation that came with them. Do you want to speak to that, Dan?
Yeah, we talked about that a bit.
Oh, did you?
While you're off, yeah. But yeah, I think it's a great way to track migration patterns because with a transfer, a Quaker wanting to attend a new Quaker meeting at this time, they would bring along with them a letter of recommendation from their current meeting, and it would document a little bit about somebody's history and their relation to the meeting. So that's just certainly a good way to get a bit of a picture into somebody, an ancestor or what have you. Yeah, I think it's and that ties into a bit also of what we're talking about, the Quaker meeting minutes being quite broad and covering all kinds of different social or local aspects that are happening in the community. And you'll find all kinds of different Quaker takes basically in these Quaker meeting minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the minutes can be really entertaining. You'll see somebody being disfellowshipped for marrying, outside of the
outsiders.
Outside of the meeting, or somebody coming and asking to be readmitted, apologizing for whatever transgression they had made. It's a really good time capsule of what was going on in the community at that time.
Yeah, and it is from those letters of recommendation that I could document the coming and going back and forth between my gentleman Quaker. I don't think they use that term, but I wasn't saying, what I'm trying to say is he wasn't really a scoundrel. It was just political intrigue in the region, and with certain concerns for his life, he left and then went back later. So there was this, and normally we don't expect a migration thing in one guy's lifetime to be that much like that, but it was documented. So in those letters of recommendation, I mean, because you can only have so many John Yearsleys or some, Valentine Hollingsworth or something like that. Okay. This is interesting. Thank you, Monique, for sharing this. These two individuals, Stephen W. Morrison and Annette Little, have done several classes and institutes on that. And then in Pennsylvania were Dunkers, Quakers, or a set of Quakers, or a completely different group. I don't think they were Quakers. I'm pretty sure they weren't, but I could be wrong. Let's ask AI. In colonial Pennsylvania, were Dunkers a subset of the Quakers or Friends group? No, they were German Baptists or Quakers who were formerly very numerous. Oh, so they could have been Baptists or Quakers from Germany. Yeah, we're all doing our AI. That was my AI thing for today, guys.
I think the Dunkers may be more similar to Mennonites, if that's my understanding.
Oh, okay. And then Deb's saying she thinks that she's heard that they were Anabaptist, but not Quakers. And there's that German Baptist thought from Audrey. Yeah. Okay. Did anyone find the book on Amazon? Did we share that link? If not,
Yeah,
you did? Perfect. All right, let's switch gears and do the other things that we'd planned to do today. It's by no means an exhaustive report, but some useful insights about if you suspect that you have Quaker ancestry, here's some identifying things, and here's some kinds of record sets are slightly different, and they have been indexed. Somebody mentioned that the Hinshaw books were also in Internet Archives. That's good to know. Yeah, we need to do blogging 101, but I want to do the ancestry thing next. So let me pull that over. There's a lot that happens in the world of genealogy. All right, this is the part I got to do. Apparently, I haven't been on Ancestry for a while because I knew that they did potential father and mother, but I didn't see them as green before. It's kind of a throwback on the old green shaky leaf thing. This is Charles Swanker, and an ancestor. I was trying to look for an ancestor that where I only had one census record on them, one U.S. Census record, because you can do this on U.S. and England records, census records. So let me go to what I've accepted. And we'll find a census record, and this is how you turn on the Census Compare. So here it is for the 1880 census. Okay, and I'm going to turn on the option to compare details. Now, that's one thing where we're comparing what's in the record with what's in my tree. That is not the Census Compare. The Census Compare is right here. Compare to other census hints. Now, I think our one question we had in the green room was, did you have to have already accepted the other hints? Remember, among our hints, we have those that are new to us, that are undecided, that were ignored, or that were accepted. And I thought this guy was an outlier, and I realized this morning I'd done quite a bit of research on him, and I have several different census records that I had already accepted. All right, but let me show you what it looks like. The census hint compare. So I still don't know the answer. All right, maybe we'll find the answers. Comparison helps you identify. This is their promo stuff about a person. Yeah. Census takers spelled names based on how they sounded, so you might find different spellings. Yeah, that's good to know. They listed approximate ages, so birth dates may be off. There could be fibbing on the part of egotistical personages. If household members such as spouse, children, or parents are similar across censuses, not censi, you will likely have found the right family. I like the word likely. We talked about that last time, didn't we? Those kinds of words. Possibly, etc. All right, so this comparison indicates, Randy, that I have saved them already. So the fact that they have this, it might mean if I had unsaved these hints, it wouldn't be saying saved. I mean, I know that sounds dumb. All right, so in one census, he's called this. Sylvester Walter sounds ridiculous. There's a problem there. So it looks like maybe there's an extra 1870 census that's been added. This one looks pretty reasonable. I know him to be from Prussia. So this is actually going to help improve my what I've attached to this gentleman, because I don't think this one belongs here. So what do you see of, let me try to get right in the middle of this. So what are we seeing here? Talk to me about this. Let's just take the first two. The 1880. They're not in chronological order.
Well, they're reversed chronological
Yes,
order. They start with the
exactly.
19th and go back. One thing
Yes.
I see, having my renewal on my brain here, is that they are correlating between, which it's important to understand what that word means, but it's correlating between a number of different documents. They presented it in a table form, which makes it easier to read, which is one of the requirements for the genealogical proof standards. So this gets us a little bit closer to seeing things in a more logical way. And I really like the fact that Sylvester is in there, because it does show that he's probably not the right guy, and probably shouldn't be there. And I think that that's important information, that alone. But we do have, a conflict, which is another thing we're supposed to do in the genealogical proof standard, with Maine being a birthplace and Germany and Prussia, which are, depending on the time period, probably the right words to use. But Maine is obviously is an outlier, but we also don't get to vote. So from this perspective, it looks like the Germanic area has got 2 votes and Maine's got 1, but we don't get to vote. Either one could be right. You happen to know that the Germanic areas are more correct than the Maine.
And we're not yet looking at the actual record. This
Right.
could be an incorrect, they could have skipped a line and gone up or down.
Right.
So it could be a transcription error. But look at this. Louisa and Louise are certainly explainable per the genealogical proof standard. So this is an interesting attempt to draw us into the analysis and correlation that we should be doing on all sorts of records we collect on an individual. But census records make sense.
Can you download this as a table?
I do not know.
I can't see anything to download. I've looked at it for the some of the England ones.
Let's see what happens.
Copying and pasting it into Excel might preserve the formatting. I think it probably would.
All right, so let me pull up Excel. And we'll just see what
because
happens.
then you could just cut and paste it right into your
you could screenshot
right into your report or your blog post, which would be handy. Look at that.
Okay, so BCG's gonna have a lot of fun with we can't use AI. And it even has a hyperlink. Why? I guess I have to be up here. Oh, come on. Anyway, it even has a hyperlink so I can go look at that outlier. Let's pull that up. App to open. Okay, Chrome. And it should be pulling it up. All right, let's look at Sylvester. What line is it on? Isn't saying. So we'll go here and we'll look at the page. Walters. Man. It had the right quality.
Yeah. What I liked. Yeah. I liked it that the fact that I went to one census and there were several others that were in the hints, and it brought up all of them for you to review all at once, which is good.
Well,
the Walters family's at the very top of that page.
All right. Okay.
And so it's a carryover from the page before.
So let's go to 3 and see what we see.
So it's a spurious entry just because it was Charles.
Yeah.
But it said it was saved. Now, was it saved by you or Was it saved?
I don't know.
See,
I
you
didn't.
saved that page, so it was on the same page.
It
One page
was.
up.
It was probably me.
Yeah.
And I
And it's
don't
just a
see.
mistake.
I don't see any swankers on either. That's what I was looking for.
No.
Because that's an unusual name.
Well, go down to the bottom of that page. You
Yeah, I
did the page
did.
before, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You got
this
Walker.
is
There's
this is
James
page
Walker right
3.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just think we just discovered that a copy and paste was pretty cool. That was exciting. All right. So now I'm even more intrigued and want to do more of that kind of looking at my work. Apparently, I must have done the quick click genealogy thing that I do not recommend. So Monique said, just turn it into a table. She's done that before. Yeah, you can. This is much easier, Monique, than taking the transcript from Ancestry and giving them the images. All I had to do was go to that individual and do the comparison. Man, these are things that you couldn't do last month.
Yep.
I mean, this is how fast AI is being. Sherry says, love that you can do that from the census index on any page to grab anyone. Yes. And Frank, talk to me about this. Oh,
yeah, I saw your comparison list with all the difference, and I noticed the spelling difference between Swanker and Schwenker, and it is a completely different spelling and intonation.
Yeah.
So it is interesting in historical context, but also family historical context. If these really the same person.
Well, first of all, I know he's in my family, and so is his wife and 3 of their children, because they're in the family Bible that I got. And secondly, I know that this area at the time when he died was really tiny. And his wife, he had an estate, and every year the family got some of the proceeds of the estate. And for many years, he signed a little teeny slip of paper that each one did sign one each year that they received their proceeds for that year. And one year, his wife did it. It said for in behalf of her husband. I'm not about the name. It's about, is it the same family?
Okay.
And that led me to believe, maybe he died. He did not die. He was too infirm to go to the courthouse to sign the paperwork. I'm assuming, because he didn't die for, even in our family Bible, for like 18 months later. So it wasn't like his death wasn't recorded till later, or that his probate was processed, that they only have court every 3 months, something like that. All right. How's our time? Oh, we have time. All right. So let's do the blogging thing, and I think we'll get through most of what we hope to accomplish today. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. I would like to know how many of you, besides Randy, are using Blogger. And let me pull up blogger.com. Okay. Let me know in the chat. Anybody on the panel using Blogger to blog?
I have been using Blogger, but I haven't blogged on Blogger for a while. I tend to put posts on Substack now more.
So, Dan, the reason I had the discussion about Blogger, which is like arguably the oldest blogging platform on the face of the earth, was that the woman who approached me at Roots Tech, that what this little 80-year-old lady, had heard about genealogers, came to our booth and said, I've been sending email and I know that it's, they never respond. And I want these stories to survive. And somebody told me to come talk to you.
Mhm.
And when I talked to her, I asked her a lot of questions like, who told you about blogging? What did they say? And the majority of the people that she knew, she didn't know everybody's blogging platform, but the ones that she could recall were using Blogger. So to get her message out as soon as possible, I recommended Blogger, knowing that it would be nice to have it on Substack. That way I wasn't having to teach her two big things. And that she had a pool of people that were using Blogger in her immediate environment who could give her support when Roots Tech wasn't on. And you know what I'm saying? So I still think that we should start at Substack, but she's frail and she spoke haltingly and she doesn't have a lot of time, in my opinion. So if she got it out there, and I told her, you got to put a picture or a map or, like you did for your history of the area where your meeting house is, that improves Google's outlook at it. I didn't talk search engine optimization. I said it's more intriguing, and within minutes, it will be spidered since Google owns Blogger. Okay.
I think it brings up a really interesting point, Myrt, in where you would put, a story that you want to survive for as long as possible, and certainly, something like Blogger is kind of interesting in that respect, in that it's owned by Google, which is interesting. That I would think if you're putting something out there that you want to survive as long as possible on the internet, putting it with one of the largest companies would probably be a smart bet. But also, I think in terms of getting these stories to live on, and another important point is connecting with historical societies that may have an interest in the information, or family members who might have an interest in the information, and at least in some way, someone who's interested in it may know about it and want to preserve it on their own, because that is, I think, an important part of family history. These blogger websites will probably go away at some point, certainly, and I think it's up to family historians to find them and preserve them.
Well, she's going to. It's what she can do, and we talked about this. Going to her emails where she sent things, and copy and paste it one by one by one. She says, I can do copy and paste. It's much easier than using a typewriter, which I concur. I had to use that in those early, when I did that first report, starting day after given the assignment.
I have a friend who blogs pretty regularly, and what she does is annually, she does blog to print, and she publishes them in hard copy, which is really the only relatively assured way that you have of any preservation, because then you can distribute it to historical societies, which you should do if you're doing your family stories. So local library, state historical society, the genealogical society library, Library of Congress wants everything that's published. I just urge everybody to get it into hard copy if you can.
I also suggest that you take advantage of a little thing that Brewster Kahle invented. He is the originator of the Internet Archive. And all of my old Dear Myrtle things are over there. I only had to tell him once. you know. So that's a digital copy. And I'm aware of all the issues of hard drive failures and different media, and that we have to keep it with the latest reading technology, etc. But when you've got a guy like that and his team, or the Library of Congress, which may not keep your book,
Right.
Family Search wants permission to digitize your book immediately.
Right.
And that's something you can grant, and then one person on the face of the earth can look at it at a time. That's certainly reasonable. Yeah. Well, Wayback Machine finds them as well. That's what this is. Google finds blogger posts, and you know how I know how quickly it does it? In the olden days, when there were like 10 of us that blogged in the genealogy vertical, I luckily had come up with this nom de plume that was fairly unique, and I always signed it, Happy Family Tree Climbing Myrt, Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. So I set up a Google alert for Dear Myrtle so I could know if people were reading me or talking about me. And I would get the notice in email as a Google alert from Google that I had posted this blog post within like a minute or two. So all of any way we can possibly save it, we got to do it. All right, here's what I want to share today. It's
2-minute warning.
Okay, we're going to go over 5 minutes because we can't keep putting this off.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my shared screen, and it's very white. I should change it. I'm starting, Dan, to do things on my phone with the dark background with the white lettering because I found out it preserves batteries. I mean, it doesn't take as much battery.
It does, yeah.
And for that reason alone, it's a little hard though. This is where you go to Blogger and log in. That we set up grandmother's recipes, and we did one fake post. But I don't want to go any farther. This is where we could be adding a new post. But when we go down here to layout, we're going to actually add something. Now let me also open the view of it. Let me go back up.
You blog at the bottom.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, thank you, because I don't go here very frequently. We noticed that I misspelled recipes, and that is fixable. But we're doing the blogger layout. So the very top part of it is this is the banner. This is the default graphic. There's nothing here. We can add to that. That isn't what it looks like on the public side. But we are going to add a gadget. It already has a blog archive that lists all of the blog posts. There's only one. We can have it if you add labels, which are like tags. So everything on your Quaker people, if you wrote about Quakers out of your 500 blog posts in a week, Randy would have labeled it Quaker, and it would show up the most recent ones. In fact, you can tell it how many most recent ones. The labels could be sorted alphabetically, so you'd see your Anderson ancestors, and then later on that list you'd see your Quakers, and then you could click and see all the posts that have to do with either the Andersons or the Quakers, depending. And you could show all of the posts per label or selected labels, but we're not doing labels. We are going to actually add a gadget. The blog archive does it by date. That's not very helpful to me. It just has a date. But if you add a gadget and you want them to search your blog for any word, this is what you add. But look at some of these others. You could add an image. Might do that Dear Myrtle image on the side. There's a lot to tell you, but I just want to have that person add a search this blog. That's the title. It could be search for a recipe, but we're just going to leave it at that. And what it does is it added it in the top position of the sidebar. Now, you and I didn't decide that the sidebar is going to be on the left and that there would be all of the blog posts on the right side. We just chose a blank template, and that was the beauty of Blogger, is it was just an easy pick. If you wanted to rearrange things and move labels up or delete the blog archive, which is basically what you did in chronological order, if you all you have to do is, you see how we get that drag and drop option with the 4-pointed arrow. You can rearrange all these, but I honestly think search this blog should be at the top. This didn't involve going out to Google and applying different HTML text like we had to do in the olden days. It's just so much easier now. So we have to save this layout, and I don't see, oh, here it is. Now, would a newbie know that that button there, which is a 3.5-inch floppy disk, is the save button?
No.
They would if they use Microsoft Office, but are they using Google Drive as their office in the cloud? I don't know. All right, so let's, it was frances'srecipe.com. Here's search this blog, and I am going, where's our posts? Let's refresh the page. Anyway, that is how you add different gadgets. Over on WordPress, there's widgets you can add, etc. Themes can be changed. This is the theme that we have. We could pick a different color scheme in that Contempo. This was Contempo Light, but we may decide we like the aquamarine. Or we may want to have a really big picture of a really yummy meal, or the family gathering at Thanksgiving. These are all different templates or themes that you can apply. A lot of people have this. This was Cousin Russ's choice. A simple blog where the blog itself shows up, the post itself shows up on the left with 2 columns, and you could make it 2 or 1 columns of various data being presented on the side nav bar. So that is adding changing the layout to add a search this blog gadget. And also, if you didn't like that color scheme, you could do something else. You can also customize, but it was years before I ever went to the customization part. You don't need to worry about it. Pretty easy. One thing before we go, and this is really important. You will recall a few weeks ago, Randy made a post about some new offering over at MyHeritage. And at the bottom of his post, he explained his relationship with MyHeritage. And that relationship can be if they sent you something for free. Like with Mr. Myrt's big, gigantic scanning project. We received a very nice book scanner from our friends over at VividPix. And you need to know that when Randy's writing about MyHeritage, or I'm writing about VividPix, you need to know that we're both as objective as could possibly be, but we need legally to tell you about the relationship we have. Now, some people do it in an individual post with like a link to find out about my partnership or my sponsorship of the whole website from MyHeritage, whatever it is. Then click, give them a link at the top of your page to your full disclosure statement. So my disclosure statement has everything alphabetically by the company involved. And part of why I don't accept sponsorships is then I'd have to go in and change it if it's somebody else that's sponsoring it for that month. I don't want to, I want to have an independent viewpoint. But on the other hand, the advantage of being a prolific writer like Randy, people want his opinion, companies want his opinion because he has a big audience, a big draw. I did not discuss disclosure statements with this sweet little lady. What was good for her, getting her from point A to point B, was set up Blogger, know that you have a community of people at home that can help you because they were pushing you to do it in the first place, and do the copy and paste and go forward there. I told her it was easy. I showed her what the templates look like because I had my little, we were doing it on my phone, so it was tiny. I had to use my spectacles. Anyway, that's where we are as far as Blogger 101. So I hope that helps. Yeah. Yeah. Google finds blogger post. Yep, we did that. WordPress has a free version, but you pay for the URL. Yes. One of the interesting things about Google that you need to be aware of is you better tell the Wayback Machine who you are. Because Google is notorious for, with maybe luckily 3 months notice or maybe 6 months notice, they're going to do away with something wonderful like Google News. So we all had to go to Feedly to aggregate any kind of RSS feeds. Yeah. I don't know. All right, folks. What a great meeting. We went 7 minutes over. That makes up for the times that I stopped early so I could catch a ferry. Don't have to do that today. Folks, I really appreciate our panelists. Thank you to everyone. This has been a marvelous meeting. I knew I could throw it to Dan or any one of the members of the panel when I needed to bow out. I don't know why my computer's acting up. I actually rebooted everything and came in the test for StreamYard. I couldn't hear through my headset or my speakers. But when I came in on the odd chance that it would work, and it did. So that's technology for you. Nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.